4:45 in the morning, September 1st, 1939. Danzig harbour sits quiet under a dark sky. But in the pre-dawn darkness, something ancient is stirring. An old battleship, a relic from another era, slowly raises its massive guns. The crew has been waiting for this moment. Training. Preparing. This ship shouldn't even be here. It's obsolete. A museum piece. Launched before the First World War, it belongs in a scrapyard, not at the heart of Hitler's master plan. But in less than 60 seconds, this forgotten warship will fire the shot that changes everything. The shot that plunges 60 million people into the deadliest conflict in human history. This is the story of Schleswig Holstein, the oldest, slowest, most outdated battleship in the German Navy, and the vessel Adolf Hitler personally chose to start World War II. Kiel, Germany, December 17, 1906. A new battleship slides down the ways into the Baltic Sea. Its name, Schleswig Holstein, named after two northern German provinces. It's the fourth ship of the Deutschland class. On paper, it looks impressive. 13,000 tons of steel, 4 massive 11-inch guns mounted in twin turrets, 14 smaller guns for close defense, armor plating up to 9 inches thick, a crew of over 700 men. But there's a problem. A big problem. It's already obsolete the moment it touches water. Just 8 months earlier, Britain launched HMS Dreadnought. That single ship revolutionized naval warfare overnight. Bigger guns, better armor, faster speed. Dreadnought made every existing battleship in the world instantly outdated, including Schleswig Holstein. The Germans call ships like it pre-dreadnoughts. It's a polite way of saying second-rate. Schleswig Holstein's top speed, 18 knots. That's barely 20 miles per hour. Modern battleships are hitting 25, even 30 knots. It's slow, ponderous. In a fleet engagement, it can't keep up. Its guns, while powerful, have limited range compared to the new generation of weapons. Its armor, thick as it is, isn't arranged efficiently. It's tough, but it's not modern. Still, Germany is in an arms race with Britain. They need ships. Any ships. So Schleswig-Holstein joins the high seas fleet. For the next decade, it serves as a second-line battleship, training, patrols, showing the flag in Baltic ports. It's routine work for a routine ship. Then comes August 1914. The Great War erupts. Finally, Schleswig-Holstein will see combat. Finally, it will prove its worth. Except it doesn't. Not really. May 31st, 1916. The Battle of Jutland. The largest naval engagement in history. Over 250 ships. British Grand Fleet versus German High Seas Fleet. This is the moment battleships were built for. Schleswig-Holstein is there, part of the German battle line. The guns roar. Smoke covers the sea. Ships explode and sink. But Schleswig-Holstein, it fires a few salvos. Doesn't hit much. Takes no serious damage. It's too slow to keep up with the fast action. Too outdated to make a difference. When the battle ends, both sides claim victory. But everyone knows the truth. The age of the battleship is already passing, and old ships like Schleswig-Holstein are relics even in their own time. Its crew gives it a nickname, Old Reliable. It sounds like a compliment. It's not. It means the ship is slow, steady, boring. It doesn't break down, but it doesn't do anything exciting either. It's the ship you assign to rookies and training missions. November 1918. Germany loses the war. The Treaty of Versailles is brutal. Germany's fleet is to be surrendered, scuttled, destroyed. The proud high seas fleet sails to scape a flow and sinks itself rather than serve the enemy. Dozens of modern battleships go to the bottom. But Versailles includes a strange provision. Germany can keep 6 old pre-dreadnought battleships. Just 6. For coastal defense only. The Allies figure these ancient relics pose no threat. They're right. Mostly. Schleswig Holstein is one of the 6. It survives because it's obsolete, because nobody fears it. This decision will haunt Europe 20 years later. The 1920s and 30s, Schleswig Holstein becomes a training ship. It takes cadets on cruises, shows them how to navigate, how to fire guns, how to sail a warship. It visits ports around the Baltic. Goodwill tours, they call them. Old reliable, showing the flag, reminding the world that Germany still has a navy. Sort of. The cadets who train on its bridge will become the U-boat commanders and surface raiders of the next war. They're learning on an antique, but they're learning. 1933. Adolf Hitler comes to power. He has plans. Big plans. He's going to rearm Germany, rebuild the military, reclaim everything Versailles took away, and he's going to do it smart. He's going to deceive the world until it's too late to stop him. 1935. Germany openly violates Versailles. New submarines. New aircraft. Secret construction of modern battleships like Bismarck and Tirpitz. The world watches nervously, but does nothing. Britain even signs a naval agreement, allowing Germany to rebuild. But here's the genius. While Hitler builds his modern fleet in secret, he keeps the old ships visible. Schleswig Holstein keeps making its training cruises, keeps visiting foreign ports, keeps looking harmless. Because it is harmless. An old lady from another era. Nothing to worry about. Except Hitler sees something others don't. He sees propaganda value. He sees a symbol. He sees a weapon that nobody will suspect until it's too late. Old Reliable is about to become the most important ship in the German Navy. Not because it's powerful, but because it's perfect for deception. Let's talk about Danzig. Because if you don't understand Danzig, you don't understand why World War II started where it did and how it did. After World War I, the Treaty of Versailles redrew the map of Europe. Poland, which hadn't existed as an independent nation for over a century, was reborn. But Poland needed access to the sea. So the treaty carved out the Polish corridor, a strip of land cutting right through German territory, giving Poland access to the Baltic Sea. This left East Prussia separated from the rest of Germany. Millions of Germans suddenly cut off from their homeland by Polish territory. And right in the middle of this mess sits Danzig, a city that's 95% German, but designated a free city under League of Nations protection. To Hitler, this is intolerable, an insult, a wound that must be healed. He calls it the bleeding border. German propaganda screams about oppressed Germans suffering under Polish rule. It's mostly lies, but it's effective. Many Germans believe it. And at the entrance to Danzig harbour sits a small peninsula called Westerplatte. The Versailles Treaty allows Poland to maintain a military depot there, a transit point for ammunition and supplies. It's defended by fewer than 200 Polish soldiers. A symbolic garrison, really. Not meant to fight a war. But to Hitler, Westerplatte is the perfect target. Small. Isolated. Technically Polish, but sitting in a German city. If he can take Westerplatte, he can claim he's liberating Germans, not invading Poland. It's all about the story. The narrative, the propaganda. There's just one problem. How do you position troops for a surprise attack on Westerplatte without tipping off the world that you're about to start a war? Enter Schleswig Holstein. July 1939. Europe is tense. Everyone knows war is coming. Germany has already swallowed Austria and Czechoslovakia. Poland looks like the next target. Britain and France have promised to defend Poland if Germany attacks. The stakes couldn't be higher. And into Danzig harbour sails Schleswig Holstein. Old Reliable. On a goodwill visit. Officially, it's there to commemorate the 25th anniversary of World War I, to honour German sailors who died in the Great War. It's perfectly innocent. A memorial cruise. The kind of thing the old training ship does all the time. The British watch but aren't concerned. It's just Schleswig Holstein. That old pre-dreadnought. What's it going to do? It can barely make 18 knots. Its guns are from 1906. It's a floating museum. The French aren't worried either. If Germany was planning something serious, they'd send modern ships, destroyers, cruisers, not a 40-year-old relic. Even Polish intelligence, on high alert for German aggression, doesn't see the threat. Schleswig Holstein has visited Danzig before. This seems routine. But below decks, hidden in the ship's interior spaces, are 225 German Marines, combat troops, elite soldiers. They've been training for weeks. They know the layout of Westerplatte. They know every bunker, every trench, every gun position. They're ready. The ship's holds carry extra ammunition, not ceremonial rounds, live ordnance, high explosive shells, enough to pound Westerplatte into rubble. Schleswig Holstein anchors just 200 yards from the Polish garrison, close enough that its guns can't miss, close enough that its Marines can storm the beaches in minutes. The Polish commander on Westerplatte, Major Henryk Sucharski, watches the old battleship nervously. He knows something feels wrong. But what can he do? Danzig is a free city. German ships have every right to visit. He sends reports to Warsaw, requests reinforcements, asks for instructions. Warsaw tells him to stay calm. Don't provoke an incident. The situation is delicate. Britain and France are negotiating. War might still be avoided. So Major Sucharski waits. His 182 men wait. They watch the old grey battleship sitting in the harbour. They don't know they're looking at the fuse that will ignite the world. August 1939. The diplomatic theatre reaches its climax. Hitler demands Poland hand over Danzig and the corridor. Poland refuses. Britain and France promise to fight if Germany invades. The world holds its breath. But Hitler has already decided. On August 23rd, he shocks the world by signing a non-aggression pact with Stalin's Soviet Union. The two dictators secretly agree to divide Poland between them. With the Soviet Union neutralized, Hitler has a free hand in the east. He gives the order. Fall Weiss. Case White. The invasion of Poland will begin at 4:45 a.m. on September 1st, and the first shot will come from Schleswig Holstein. The crew makes final preparations. Gun crews check their weapons. Marines sharpen their bayonets. Officers review the plan. At 4:43 a.m., they'll open fire on Westerplatte. 2 minutes later, at 4:45, the Luftwaffe will begin bombing Polish airfields. At the same time, 53 German divisions will crash across the Polish border. But the battleship fires first. That's the plan. Schleswig Holstein, the oldest, most obsolete ship in the fleet, will have the honour of starting the war. The Trojan-horse has entered the city. The gates are about to open, and the world has no idea what's coming. On the night of August 31st, Major Sucharski can't sleep. He walks the defences of Westerplatte, checks the bunkers, talks to his men. The old German battleship sits dark in the harbour, silent, waiting. Sucharski knows his orders. Hold for 12 hours. That's all. 12 hours to delay the Germans while Poland mobilizes. 12 hours, and then relief will come. He doesn't know he'll hold for 7 days. He doesn't know that relief will never come. He doesn't know he's about to face the entire German military machine with fewer than 200 men. At 4:44 a.m. on September 1st, 1939, a German officer aboard Schleswig Holstein looks at his watch. 1 minute to go. He gives the order. Train all guns on target. Prepare to fire. The ancient battleship, the relic that everyone dismissed, the floating museum that nobody feared, is about to speak. And when it does, the world will listen. Because sometimes the oldest weapon in the arsenal is exactly the right weapon for the job. 4:45 a.m. The blast of Schleswig-Holstein's main guns shatters the morning silence. 11-inch shells scream across 200 yards of water and slam into Westerplatte. Explosions rip through the Polish guardhouse, the barracks, the ammunition storage areas. Flames erupt. Debris flies. The Second World War has begun. Not with a diplomatic crisis. Not with an assassination. Not with a fleet engagement or an aerial bombardment. With a single ship, an obsolete, outdated, forgotten battleship from the previous war, firing the opening salvo of the next one. The irony would be poetic if it wasn't so deadly. Inside Westerplatte, Major Sucharski and his men scramble. They've been on alert, but nothing prepares you for the reality of naval bombardment. Schleswig Holstein's guns might be old, but at point-blank range, they're devastating. Each shell weighs over 600 pounds. When they hit, they don't just damage, they obliterate. The Polish defenders rush to their positions. Machine gun nests, mortar pits, trenches. They've built impressive fortifications for such a small garrison. Concrete bunkers, underground shelters, camouflaged positions. They're ready to fight. But they're not ready for this. Schleswig Holstein fires salvo after salvo. Its 4 main guns boom in sequence. Smoke and flame pour from its turrets. The ship rocks with each shot. Its secondary batteries join in. 5.9-inch guns adding to the storm of steel falling on the Polish position. At the same moment, German Marines storm ashore. 225 assault troops hitting the beaches. They expected Westerplatte to be softened up. Stunned. Ready to surrender. They're wrong. The Poles fight back with everything they have. Machine guns chatter. Mortars drop shells on the advancing Germans. Rifle fire picks off Marines crossing open ground. The Germans expected a walkover. They're facing determined resistance. The first German assault stalls. Takes casualties. Pulls back. Schleswig-Holstein increases its fire. For 3 hours, the old battleship pounds Westerplatte. Over 400 shells. The Polish positions are cratered. Buildings are rubble. Fires burn everywhere. But the Poles don't surrender. By 8 a.m., the German command realizes they have a problem. Westerplatte was supposed to fall in hours. It's become a siege. And the whole world is watching. Because at 4:45 a.m., when Schleswig-Holstein opened fire, Germany also sent a radio message to the world. We are answering Polish aggression. It's a lie. Poland didn't attack. But Hitler needs the narrative. He needs to claim self-defense. And Schleswig-Holstein's guns are writing that narrative in smoke and fire. Throughout September 1st, the battle continues. Schleswig-Holstein fires over 700 shells. German Marines make repeated assaults. Stuka dive bombers join the attack, screaming down to drop their payloads. The small Polish garrison is facing the full might of the German military. And they're holding. Major Sucharski expected to hold 12 hours. By nightfall on September 1st, he's already exceeded that. His men are exhausted. Ammunition is running low. The fortifications are damaged. But they're still fighting. Why does this matter? Why does one small battle on a peninsula matter when all of Poland is being invaded? Because of what it reveals. The German military machine, the Wehrmacht that's supposed to be invincible, can't take one small position defended by fewer than 200 men. Not quickly. Not easily. Schleswig-Holstein, the ship that started the war, can't finish this one battle. September 2nd. The bombardment continues. The old battleship is doing what it was designed for 70 years ago. Shore bombardment. Pounding fixed positions. It's brutal, unglamorous work. But effective. Except Westerplatte still doesn't fall. September 3rd. Britain and France declare war on Germany. The European war becomes a world war. In Warsaw, the Polish government realizes no help is coming to Westerplatte. The garrison is on its own. September 4th, 5th, 6th. The siege continues. Schleswig-Holstein fires until its gun barrels are wearing out. It has launched over 4,000 shells at Westerplatte. More ordnance than it fired in all of World War I. The Polish garrison is down to fewer than 150 effective soldiers. They're out of medical supplies. Water is running low. Ammunition is nearly exhausted. The position is untenable. But Major Sucharski refuses to surrender. Not yet. Every hour Westerplatte holds is another hour for Poland, another hour that ties down German forces, another hour of resistance. September 7th. Dawn. Schleswig Holstein begins its final bombardment. But now German artillery has been brought up. Heavy siege guns. The combined fire is overwhelming. The last Polish bunkers are collapsing. Fires are everywhere. The ammunition depot is about to explode. At 9:30 a.m., Major Sucharski gives the order. Cease fire. Display the white flag. Westerplatte has fallen. 7 days. The garrison that was supposed to hold 12 hours held 7 days. Against a battleship. Against repeated infantry assaults. Against dive bombers and artillery. 182 men held off over 3,000 German attackers. 15 Polish soldiers died. Another 60 were wounded. They inflicted over 400 casualties on the Germans. They denied Hitler his easy propaganda victory. They showed the world that Poland would fight. And they turned Schleswig-Holstein's triumph into something else. A struggle. A Sieger. A symbol of Polish resistance. When the Germans march the Polish survivors through Danzig, expecting humiliation, something unexpected happens. German civilians applaud the Poles. These men fought impossible odds and held their ground. Even the enemy respects that. Hitler arrives at Danzig on September 19th. He inspects Schleswig-Holstein personally, poses for photographs with the crew, presents medals. The Nazi propaganda machine works overtime. The ancient German warrior awakens. The newsreels show the old battleship, guns smoking, flying the swastika flag. It's a perfect story. The old ship. The loyal crew. The first shot of the war. Germany is painted as the wronged party, simply reclaiming what's rightfully theirs. The rest of the world isn't buying it. Britain and France are at war. The United States is watching nervously. Everyone knows the truth. Germany invaded Poland. Schleswig-Holstein fired first. But the old battleship did its job. It gave Hitler his opening. It started the war on his terms, in his way, with his narrative. The shot fired at 4:45 a.m. on September 1st, 1939, echoed around the world. It announced that diplomacy had failed, that another generation would march to war, that the peace won in 1918 was shattered, and it came from the barrel of a gun mounted on a ship launched in 1906. A ship everyone dismissed. A ship nobody feared. Sometimes, the weapon that starts a war isn't the newest or the strongest. Sometimes, it's the one nobody's watching, the one that slips past the guards, the Trojan-horse that everyone thinks is harmless. Schleswig-Holstein proved that obsolete doesn't mean useless, that propaganda value can matter more than combat power, that the right weapon in the right place at the right time can change history. But its war is just beginning, and the story of how the first ship of World War II becomes one of its last casualties is still to be told. After Danzig, Schleswig-Holstein becomes a celebrity. For about 5 minutes, the German propaganda machine milks the story. The old battleship on recruitment posters, newsreels showing its guns blazing, interviews with the crew, Hitler's personal visit. For a brief moment, Schleswig-Holstein is famous. Then reality sets in. Germany is at war. A real war. And real wars need real warships, not 40-year-old relics. September through December 1939. The phony war period. France and Britain have declared war but aren't attacking. Germany has conquered Poland but hasn't moved west yet. Everyone's preparing for the real conflict. Schleswig-Holstein goes back to what it does best: training. It takes new naval cadets on cruises in the Baltic, teaches them gunnery, navigation, seamanship. It's important work. The Kriegsmarine is expanding rapidly. They need trained officers. But it's not glamorous. The crew that fired the first shot of the war is back to teaching teenagers how to tie knots. 1940. Germany invades Denmark and Norway. Modern ships lead the assault. destroyers. Cruisers, battleships like Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. They're fast, powerful, modern. Schleswig Holstein. It provides coastal patrol in the Baltic, making sure no one sneaks up on the German coast. It's guard duty, important sure, but it's what you assign to old ships that can't keep up with the fleet. June 1940. Germany invades France. The war explodes across Western Europe. The Kriegsmarine supports the invasion with U-boats and surface raiders. Naval warfare at its finest. Schleswig-Holstein escorts convoys in the Baltic. Slow convoys. Because it can't go fast. It averages 15 knots at this point. Its engines are worn out. Its hull is tired. It's showing its age. The crew calls it the museum that shoots. It's affectionate. They're proud of their ship. But they also know it's past its prime. When young officers report aboard, expecting combat assignments, they're disappointed to learn they're on the oldest ship in the fleet. But here's something interesting. Schleswig-Holstein is one of the most reliable ships Germany has. It doesn't break down. Its old engines, properly maintained, just keep running. While modern ships are in dock for repairs, old reliable keeps sailing. Day after day. Month after month. It's not exciting, but it's valuable. 1941. Operation Barbarossa. Germany invades the Soviet Union. The Eastern Front becomes the biggest, bloodiest theatre of the war. Naval operations are limited, but important. The Baltic Sea is contested. Soviet submarines attack German shipping. Soviet aircraft bomb German ports. Schleswig-Holstein finally sees action again. Shore bombardment missions supporting German ground forces. When the Wehrmacht pushes along the Baltic coast, the old battleship's guns provide fire support. Its 11-inch shells are still effective against coastal fortifications. It bombards Soviet positions near Libau. Shells targets around Riga. Provides gunfire support for German operations in the Gulf of Finland. It's what old battleships are good at. Sitting offshore and throwing heavy shells at land targets. The Soviets try to sink it. Submarines attack but miss. Aircraft bomb it but don't hit anything vital. Schleswig-Holstein is tough. Its thick armour, obsolete though it is, still stops most attacks. And its crew is experienced. They know how to fight the ship. But here's the problem. It's 1941, and naval warfare has changed. Aircraft carriers dominate the Pacific. Submarines rule the Atlantic. Even in the Baltic, U-boats and aircraft are the decisive weapons. Battleships, even modern ones, are becoming secondary. And Schleswig-Holstein. It's a battleship from before battleships were obsolete. It's obsolete squared. 1942. The war turns. Stalingrad. El Alamein. Midway. Germany starts losing. Resources become scarce. Fuel becomes precious. Every litre of oil matters. Schleswig-Holstein is a fuel hog. Its old coal-burning engines have been converted to oil, but they're inefficient. It burns fuel at an alarming rate. And it's slow. So it burns a lot of fuel to not go very far. German Naval Command makes a decision. Schleswig-Holstein will be used primarily as a stationary platform. It will be anchored in ports and serve as an anti-aircraft battery. Its secondary guns, its 5.9-inch batteries, will defend against Allied bombers. It's a come-down. From battleship to training ship to floating gun platform. But it's practical. Germany needs all the anti-aircraft guns it can get. And Schleswig-Holstein's guns still work. It's stationed at various Baltic ports. Kiel, Gotenhafen, Pillow. Wherever the Luftwaffe needs extra air defense, its crew mans the guns during air raids. Shoots at British bombers attacking German cities. Sometimes they hit. Mostly they don't. But they make the bombers fly higher, which makes them less accurate. 1943. Allied bombing intensifies. Germany is under constant air attack. Schleswig-Holstein sits in port, guns pointing skyward, a stationary target. And it gets hit. Not badly, but hit. British bombs damage its superstructure, kill crew members, but it doesn't sink. That thick armor keeps it afloat. Repairs are made. It keeps serving. Its crew is rotated more frequently now. Experienced sailors are transferred to U-boats, to destroyers, to ships that are actually fighting the war. Schleswig Holstein gets older crew, less experienced. They're doing their best, but everyone knows this is a backwater assignment. 1944. The Allied invasion of Normandy. The beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. Soviet forces push from the east. American and British forces push from the west. Germany is being crushed from both sides. In the Baltic, Schleswig Holstein continues its unglamorous duty. Air defense. The occasional convoy escort. Training when resources allow. It's a relic in a war of modern weapons. But it's still afloat. Still serving. Most of the ships that were built alongside it in the 1900s are long gone. Scrapped. Sunk. Destroyed in World War I. Schleswig Holstein has outlived them all. Fuel is so scarce now that it barely moves. It's essentially a floating battery. Anchored. Stationary. Its engines idle most of the time. When it does move, it's short distances. Port to port. Avoiding air raids. The war is coming to an end. Everyone knows it. The question is, when, not if. Germany is losing on every front. Cities are in ruins. The population is starving. The military is exhausted. And Schleswig Holstein, the ship that started it all, is still here. Battered. Worn out. Obsolete beyond obsolete. But still flying the German flag. January 1945. Soviet forces launch their final offensive into Germany. They're pushing through Poland, through East Prussia, heading for Berlin. German military and civilians are fleeing west, trying to stay ahead of the Soviet advance. The Baltic ports become crucial. Millions of Germans need to be evacuated by sea. It's the largest maritime evacuation in history. The Kriegsmarine throws every available ship into the effort. Passenger liners, freighters, fishing boats, everything that floats. And Schleswig-Holstein. The old battleship gets new orders. Proceed to Gottenhafen, formerly the Polish city of Gdynia. Provide gunfire support for the evacuation. Use your guns to hold back Soviet forces while civilians board the ships. It's a desperate mission. A last-ditch effort. The ship that fired the first shot of the war is going to fire some of the last. In March 1945, Schleswig-Holstein takes up position near Gottenhafen. Soviet forces are closing in. Artillery shells are falling on the city. Time is running out. The old battleship's guns roar again. Not at Polish defenders this time. At Soviet attackers. It's bombarding Soviet positions. Trying to buy time. Hours. Days. Anything to get more people onto the evacuation ships. Its crew knows this is the end. There's no fuel to escape. No place to run. When Gottenhafen falls, Schleswig-Holstein will fall with it. March 21st, 1945. Soviet bombers attack the harbour. They've been trying to sink German shipping, stop the evacuation. Now they spot the old battleship. A tempting target. The bombers dive. Schleswig-Holstein's anti-aircraft guns blaze away. But there are too many attackers. Bombs fall. Direct hits. The old armour holds against some hits, but not all. Fires break out. The ship lists. Water pours in through ruptured hull plates. Schleswig-Holstein is mortally wounded. The crew fights to save it. Damage control teams work desperately. But it's no use. It's sinking. The captain gives the order. Abandon ship. Get the crew off. The battleship that served since 1906 is going down. But even in death, it will serve Germany one more time. As Schleswig-Holstein settles in the shallow water, it blocks part of the harbour channel. Soviet ships can't easily enter. It buys a little more time for the evacuation. The irony is profound. Schleswig-Holstein started the war bombarding a Polish military position in what's now Danzig. It ends the war sinking in a Polish harbour while protecting Germans fleeing the Soviet advance. From the first shot to the last, from victory to defeat, from the heights of propaganda triumph to the depths of desperation, the old battleship's war is over. So why does Schleswig Holstein matter? Why spend this much time talking about an obsolete battleship that barely participated in the war it started? Because its story teaches us something profound about warfare, propaganda, and the nature of military power. Let's start with the propaganda masterpiece. Hitler's use of Schleswig Holstein was genius. And I don't use that word lightly. It was calculated, brilliant, and it fooled everyone. Think about it from the Allied perspective in summer 1939. You're British or French intelligence. You're watching Germany closely. You know war is coming. You're looking for signs of German military preparation. And you see Germany sending warships to Danzig. Which ones? Modern destroyers. Cruisers. The new battleships, Bismarck and Tirpitz. No, they're sending Schleswig Holstein, a 40-year-old training ship, the slowest, oldest vessel in their fleet. What's the threat assessment? 0. This isn't an aggressive move. This is a ceremonial visit. Old Reliable doing what it always does. Showing the flag. Training cadets. No big deal. Except it is a big deal. It's the biggest deal. Because hiding inside that harmless old ship is the invasion force. The Marines. The ammunition. The entire plan to start the war. Hitler understood something crucial. The Allies were looking for threats. So he gave them something that didn't look threatening. He weaponized their expectations, their assumptions, their tendency to dismiss old technology as irrelevant. Compare this to what Japan did with the Betty bomber. Japan built an aircraft optimized for performance at the cost of protection. Everyone could see it was dangerous. And once Allied fighters figured out how to counter it, the Betty became a death trap. But Schleswig-Holstein, nobody saw it coming, because it looked like it wasn't coming at all. This is propaganda warfare at its finest. Control the narrative. Shape perceptions. Make your weapon invisible by making it look harmless. And it worked. When Schleswig-Holstein opened fire, the world was genuinely surprised. How did Germany get a battleship into position without anyone noticing? Because they weren't looking at the old ship. They were watching for modern threats. Lesson 1. Obsolete doesn't mean useless. It means unexpected. Now let's talk military utility. Was Schleswig-Holstein effective as a weapon? Actually, yes. In specific circumstances, shore bombardment. This is what old battleships excelled at. You don't need speed to bombard a fixed target. You don't need modern fire control when you're 200 yards away. You just need guns that work and ammunition to feed them. At Westerplatte, Schleswig-Holstein pounded Polish positions for 7 days. Over 4,000 shells. That's more ordnance than most modern ships carried. Its old magazines were huge. It could sustain fire for days. Could a modern ship have done it better? Maybe. But you know what? Hitler didn't need better. He needed a ship that was already there, already in position, already trusted and ignored. During its later service, providing fire support for German ground forces on the Eastern Front, it was effective. Those 11-inch shells destroyed Soviet bunkers just fine. The shells didn't know they were being fired from an old gun. As a stationary anti-aircraft platform, it provided valuable air defense. Its guns shot down Allied bombers. Not many, but some. And in air defense, every gun matters. Could Germany have used a modern ship for these roles? Sure, but modern ships were needed elsewhere. In the Atlantic, in the North Sea, hunting convoys, fighting the Royal Navy. Schleswig-Holstein freed up modern assets by handling secondary missions. That's military efficiency. Use the right tool for the job. Don't waste a modern destroyer on convoy escort in the Baltic when an old battleship can do it. Lesson 2. Every weapon has its purpose, even old ones. Now let's examine the Versailles Treaty loophole. After World War I, the Allies tried to disarm Germany permanently. They scuttled or seized the modern German fleet. They limited Germany to a tiny navy. But they made one crucial mistake. They allowed Germany to keep 6 old pre-dreadnought battleships. The reasoning seemed sound. These ships were obsolete. They posed no threat. Let Germany keep them for coastal defense. It's harmless. Except it wasn't harmless. Because those 6 old battleships kept the German Navy alive, they maintained institutional knowledge. They trained officers and crew. They preserved naval traditions. They kept the maritime infrastructure functioning. When Hitler started rebuilding the Kriegsmarine in the 1930s, he didn't start from scratch. He had 6 operational battleships as a foundation. He had trained crews, experienced officers, functioning shipyards, and he had Schleswig Holstein, the Trojan horse that nobody feared. Post-World War II, the Allies learned this lesson. When they disarmed Germany and Japan after 1945, they didn't allow any military assets. 0. No exceptions. No loopholes. Complete disarmament. Because they'd learned that obsolete weapons can become modern threats given enough time and resources. Lesson 3. Treaty loopholes have consequences. Let's talk about the human element. The crew of Schleswig Holstein served on the oldest, slowest ship in the fleet. They weren't on a glamorous assignment. They weren't cruising the Atlantic on Bismarck. They weren't hunting convoys in U-boats. They were on Old Reliable, the training ship, the floating museum. But they took pride in their ship. They maintained it. They kept it operational when newer ships broke down. They fired the first shot of the war. They were part of history. Read the accounts of survivors. They speak fondly of Schleswig Holstein. It was slow. It was old. It was unglamorous. But it was theirs. And it never let them down. Many of the cadets who trained on it became U-boat commanders, surface raider captains, naval heroes of the Third Reich. They learned their trade on that old battleship. The discipline, the seamanship, the skills they'd use in combat. One survivor recalled, "We joked that Schleswig Holstein was older than some of our fathers, but when those guns fired at Westerplatte, we knew we were making history. That old ship gave us the honor of starting the war. We never forgot that. There's something poignant about that. Pride in serving on the oldest ship. Pride in firing the first shot. These men believed they were fighting for Germany's honor. They believed in the mission. Of course, the mission was aggressive war, conquest. Ultimately, genocide and destruction. The Nazi cause was evil. But the individual sailors, most were just serving their country, doing their duty as they understood it. Lesson 4. Even obsolete ships carry human stories. Now let's compare Schleswig Holstein to other obsolete weapons that shaped World War II. The Betty bomber, built for range at the cost of protection, dominated early war, became a death trap later. The Fairy Swordfish, British biplane torpedo bomber, obsolete when the war started, but it sank the Bismarck. It fought throughout the entire war because it was perfect for specific missions. The M3 Stuart tank, American light tank, obsolete compared to German armor, but fast, reliable, easy to produce, used effectively in reconnaissance and infantry support. The lesson: modern doesn't always mean better. The best weapon is the one that fits the mission. Schleswig Holstein fit its mission perfectly. Start the war with plausible deniability. Provide shore bombardment. Serve as a training platform. Air defense. Evacuation support. It was never going to sink the Royal Navy. It was never going to fight a fleet action. But that's okay. That wasn't its job. Its job was to be where it was needed when it was needed. And it did that for 39 years. Lesson 5. Effectiveness matters more than modernity. Finally, let's talk about modern parallels. Is this story relevant today? Absolutely. Look at the war in Ukraine. Russia is pulling out of storage tanks from the 1960s. artillery from the 1950s, obsolete equipment that still kills effectively. Ukraine is using Soviet-era weapons alongside modern NATO systems. Guess what? The old stuff works. Maybe not as well as modern weapons, but it works. Look at maritime security. Pirates off Somalia use small boats and outdated weapons. They've threatened international shipping for years. High-tech navies struggle to counter low-tech threats. Look at asymmetric warfare. Insurgents use cheap drones, old rifles, improvised explosives. They can't match modern military technology, but they don't need to. They just need to be effective enough. The lesson of Schleswig Holstein applies today. Don't dismiss old technology. Don't assume modern automatically beats obsolete. Context matters. Mission matters. Strategy matters. And never assume that because something looks harmless, it is harmless. Lesson 6. The past is never truly past. So why does an obsolete German battleship from 1906 matter in 2025? Because its story teaches us about propaganda, about deception, about the gap between perception and reality, because it reminds us that weapons are tools, and the best tool for the job might not be the newest or most expensive, because it demonstrates that military power isn't just about technology, it's about strategy, timing, positioning, psychology, and because its story, from launch to sinking, spans the most destructive period in human history. It saw both world wars. It fired the first shot of one and nearly the last shots of the other. It's a footnote in military history. But what a footnote! So there you have it. The story of Schleswig Holstein, the obsolete battleship that started World War II. From a ceremonial visit to Danzig harbour, to firing the shot that changed history, to sinking in a Polish port while protecting German refugees, the journey came full circle. It was never the strongest ship, never the fastest, never the most modern, but it was there when it mattered. And that's what history remembers. This story matters because it reminds us that warfare isn't just about technology, it's about strategy, timing, deception, using what you have effectively. Hitler didn't need a modern battleship to start World War II. He needed a ship that wouldn't raise alarms. Old Reliable was perfect. The crew of Schleswig-Holstein fired more shells in World War II than in World War I. They kept it operational through fuel shortages and bombing raids. They served with pride on a ship everyone else dismissed. And in the end, it went down fighting. Still serving. Still doing its duty. Still relevant after 40 years of service. That's the legacy of Schleswig-Holstein. Not glory. Not fame. Just steady, reliable service in the face of impossible odds. So what's your takeaway? Comment below. Did this story change how you think about obsolete technology? About propaganda and deception? About the weapons we dismiss as irrelevant? And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We dig deep into the untold stories of military history. The weapons, the tactics, the decisions that shaped our world. Thanks to everyone who commented their time and prayers at the beginning. From California to Singapore, from Texas to Germany, you're proving that this community is global. We remember history together so we don't repeat the worst of it. Next time, we're looking at another underdog weapon that nobody saw coming. Another piece of military hardware that shaped history despite being written off as obsolete. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember, sometimes the oldest weapon is the right weapon. Sometimes the most dangerous threat is the one you're not watching. And sometimes, history is made by the ships everyone forgot about. I'm your host. This has been the story of Schleswig Holstein, the battleship that started World War II. Thanks for watching. And never forget,